but I always find it remarkable how quickly India is moving. It's the optimism and the excitement about the future is tangible.
Are you planning to apply for the honorary citizenship of India?
Yeah, I think it's about time. Yeah,
it's about time, right?
It became a bit of a joke only because when they start, I don't want to get involved in any politics, but I do try and pay attention when I come to India. I read quite a bit. Am I a Bollywood fan?
Yeah.
I am terrible with Bollywood names. Like I always look, I go, I pass a poster and you'll laugh at me, but I pass the poster and I go, what's that guy's name again? And you'll have to tell me that, he's an older man, big glasses. He's an absolute superstar. Do you know who he is? I'm trying to describe him. Yes.
Just wanted to know your experience, considering you've been coming to India since probably 2011, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
And it's been almost 12 years. So you explored a lot before you signed up for the show. What was it that really excited you? Because someone who has been here multiple times, what were the facets that you thought that would come out through this show?
Well, I think the opportunity to explore the country on a different level, that's for me really the attraction, and getting stuck into it in the first couple of episodes with our travels to say Onam and Nagaland really opened my eyes. So from my usual visits, which tend to be a mixture of business or if I'm traveling or filming for food, it's always just about the food. And so it's a very different experience. This one has been immersive and on a very kind of deep and personal level as well, because it's I've attended, as one of the crew members said, that his mother had told him, "Aren't you lucky? You're attending every auspicious occasion throughout India throughout the year." And he said, "I truly feel blessed." And I said, "Well, I feel blessed too, because I'm experiencing all of this as it's all new for me. I've touched on odd festivals like Diwali, where I've been involved just as a tourist on the periphery, but this is a deep dive. I've never experienced India as up close and as personal and as in such a moving way. I feel like I'm having the time of my life. If you look at my Instagram, I'm just constantly smiling. So a new, deeper appreciation of the culture and the incredible history.
Right. In fact, we are celebrating Onam today out here in India. And something that you experienced at, if I'm not wrong, at a temple in Kochi. I just want to know someone who has crisscrossed India from Nagaland to Bombay to right from Ladakh. I think you went to Ladakh also. To deep down south. What have been some of your most abiding memories, when it comes to this show, or probably the country as such?
Well, I mean, to answer the last bit, crisscrossing the country again is, I think very few people, that I talk to, certainly in Australia, and even in India too, people don't travel often in their own country, So when I say I've been to Nagaland or Leh Ladakh or Madurai in Tamil Nadu, I frequently get told, even by Indians themselves, I've not been there either. And what did you eat? And what's the food like? So it's been quite that's been a pleasure for me too. And certainly on another level, often, my Indian friends will they'll give me a quick history lesson on a particular thing. Could be Onam, about Mahabali or Vamana. And then I find myself correcting them about the detail, about it, maybe they learnt it when they were at school, but they can't remember the whole story, for example. So that diversity, I think, is misunderstood outside of India, certainly. Like I talk to my Australian friends, and it's kind of shock and awe when I tell them what 1 minute I'm celebrating Onam, in long boats, the Nauru boat race and Aramulla boat race, and could be 80 men in a boat, and all of this kind of fervour and frenzy. And then in the next minute I'm sitting in the mountains in Kohima and Nagaland, talking to young, Chakusan tribesmen, who are fiercely proud of their culture and their history, but obviously all proudly Indian too. So that that's the last bit of the question, I suppose. My experience of Onam was a baptism by fire, actually, because it was my first visit back since lockdown.
Right.
It was the first big celebration of Onam and the boat race for 3, I think even 4 years,
4 years,
because
yeah.
there were floods, and
Yeah.
then there was, you know, various lockdowns. And so this was a massive kind of, it felt like a massive kind of release, you know, for the public, and to travel down and to get behind it. And I remember my first day, I turned up literally filming, I think like 15 hours later, and I'm on the riverbank, and I've got my mask and my, you know, ridiculously, my mask and my, what do you call it, the sanitizer. And I just looked at it and looked at like 150,000 people and went, oh, well, get stuck in, Gaz. And I remember one of the first scenes was me kind of pushing through, you know, a massive kind of heaving, you know, sweating bodies, and being very polite and smiling. And obviously they might look at me a bit, you know, like, what's this guy doing here?
Yeah.
But as soon as you smile, they smile back, and, you know, you point at the camera, or the drone in this case. And I remember I pushed my way to the front of the crowd, and everybody's getting excited because we're at the beginning of the heats for the Nauru boat race. And then once they see the drone pop up in the air, everybody just goes crazy. And within 3 or 4 minutes, I've got them all shouting, you know, India's mega festivals to the drone as it, you know, pings off into the background. So it was just, you know, that first visit back to India, and Onam being the first festival that I attended, was really beautiful. I mean, we, you know, saw the biggest pukalam, you know, the puli kali dancers, you know, the big, you know, men dressed as tigers.
Costumes, yeah.
Never have I felt so slim in a group of men who are very proud of their bellies with tigers painted all over them.
Yeah.
And I felt like, and felt very welcome at every level. And then the experience at Trikakara Temple was, it was in a little snapshot, you know, in a half a day's filming or a day's filming, gave you this sense of charity and community and celebration, of joy, of, you know, all of these different people from different walks of life converging just on one temple, you know, to, you know, enjoy Onam together, and that Onam Sadhya together. And completely different people, from very wealthy to very poor. And part of that, obviously, is the charity of giving, seeing trucks turn up with donations of tons of vegetables and rice, to somebody just turning up with a little bag with a few, you know, a few vegetables in it, is a wonderful illustration of that, what that festival means to everybody. So yeah, I could keep talking, but I don't know if that conveys my kind of excitement, you know, returning to India after so many years, and experiencing Kochi and all around there. And I spent another 2 weeks traveling around Munnar and Tikadi, you know, and Kamarakon, and just really, you know, getting stuck into the, you know, I just love it. It's God's own country, isn't it called?
Gary, on a lighter note, I just want to ask you, are you planning to apply for the honorary citizenship of India?
Yeah, I think it's about time. Yeah,
it's about time, right?
It became a bit of a joke, only because, you know, when they start, you know, I don't want to get involved in any politics, but, you know, I do try and pay attention when I come to India. I read, you know, quite a bit here and there about, you know, either current politics or history, and try and get it to stick. But the joke is, now when a journalist might ask me, or somebody might ask me, okay, dinner for, you know, last dinner on earth, or, you know, dinner of most interesting people, I always go, Modi, I've got to get him on a table. We've got to talk about some things, you know, we need to fix some things. But I always find it remarkable how quickly India is moving. You know, it's the optimism and the excitement about the future is tangible.
Yeah, but like you mentioned in your previous answer, you know, there are still a little bit of misconceptions about when it comes to India as a country, you know, globally. These corners of India that you travel and that you spoke about also contribute towards the diversity of the Indian cuisine. Do you think India has moved beyond this whole idea that, you know, the only dish that exists or probably people know about is butter chicken globally, if you see?
I think it's difficult, because I think India has this, and I answer this question quite a bit, and the answer changes a little bit every time I answer it, only because my frame of reference has changed. You know, so I know a lot more than I did, you know, 5 years ago, even after filming mega festivals. And even in the first 6 episodes, I traveled, as you say, all over India. So I get to see, you know, the diversity, not just in the food, obviously, but, you know, the culture, the language, you know, every aspect of life. There could almost be, and when you look at it historically, separate states, regions, territories. And we often say it, 5,000-year-old civilization, but a young country, 6 years old now. And it amazes me how the perception of India is changing as we're moving forward. We know, and again, I don't want to get political, but we know that, India, let me frame it up a little bit. Talking to a young man, just randomly, and, I said, how do you feel about India? How do you, what's your vision of the future? Do you want to travel overseas? Do you want to gain experience? And he said, no, I want to work here. I want to live here. This is my home. And the optimism and the excitement and the belief that India, and it will be obviously one of the great powers, superpowers, industrial and otherwise, IP, etc., is obvious. The spirit and the pace of change is incredible. And I think food, every country has its cliches, lamb and peas in Australia, or fish and chips in the UK. It's the food, it's pizza for Italy. And it drives people that really love their food bonkers, because if you go to Italy and you expect to have great pizza all over the country, it's not going to happen. The best pizza is in Naples. You travel up north to Parma and the food is completely different to the food that you'll eat in Sicily. And it drives Italians mad because people just go, look at carbonara. We've adulterated carbonara and bolognese for 50 years. So I think butter chicken is India's version of Australia's lamb and peas. We've left it long behind, but it's still part of our identity. And I think with India becoming more influential, and even with shows like this, as they travel around the world and people watch me experience the culture and the diversity, it opens their eyes to the very same things. And food is part of that. So me eating, a plate of, warm, steamed, idiyappam, drenched in coconut with jaggery and coconut, people go, wow. And I go, wow. Forget butter chicken. This is delicious.
But tell me, globally also, we see a lot of restaurants reflecting a growing cloud of Indian restaurateurs and chefs. Do you think Indian food is finally getting its due when it comes to globally? When it goes globally?
Yeah, because there's been some trailblazers that have really, Manesh Malhotra from Indian Accent in Delhi, regarded as, he's kind of the grandfather now, beyond, say, Sanjeev Kapoor. He took restaurant, fine dining, Indian cuisine to another level in India, and people from all over the world have flown into Delhi just for that restaurant experience. So people like that, that pop up on the world's top 50 or world's top 100 or Asia's best, they become dining destinations in themselves. And just by kind of osmosis, the influence that he has, young chefs now, and you can, I used to count them on one hand. Now I'm struggling to remember how many young chefs and trailblazers there are in India that just purely are gathering an enormous amount of interest because they're using indigenous ingredients, some forgotten ingredients, traditional recipes, and then, in an inspired way, creating something new and interesting. And particularly the techniques, the diversity in techniques, from throwing a paratha, as paper thin as you can possibly imagine. A skill like that, even to a French chef, a top French chef, is remarkable. And then we're talking, everything from the most complex and spicy to the most simple and aromatic, across that length and breadth of the country. So it's I think we're right on the cusp of an explosion of you're seeing it already. You're seeing little panipuri pop up all over the world with people using them as little amuse-bouche at the start of a meal. And they may be filled with something different, but it's just one of many things that are popping up, because chefs are looking for something new.
Tell me, is there anything still left on your bucket list when it comes to exploring this country?
Oh, gee, yeah. Look, I've got 3 more visits this year. 3 more visits this year. I've got 2 more festivals that are on the list this year, including Diwali and Dussehra, and another one in March next year. So I'm really looking forward to my October trip. And like I say, the experiences that I've had, even in this first series, which goes to air next week, I think it is, on the 6th, I asked them, why choose me? Why do you want Gary Mehigan hosting a show about Indian festivals. And they said, well, because I actually saw the brief for the show. And the brief for the show is a young, adventurous, type, handsome and, go-to. And they picked me. And I'm like, you sure? And they said, yeah, because you're eternally excited and enthusiastic about everything that you see.
Yeah.
And India fascinates me endlessly. And I think I've mentioned this before, but I feel I'm at the right time of my life. I don't embarrass easily. It's about the moment and the experience. Like if they go, we want you to jump off that, or pull that along, or row, like I rode, with, I think it was Pavathor East boat. I think it was boat number 24, but now I'm questioning it. And I was out on the boat for 3 hours training with the guys, and I was jumping off the boat and helping other villages push their boats in off the mud into the, into their huts. And they said, oh, you don't have to do that. I said, I'm having fun. Like this is what it's all about. If I'm knee deep in mud, with some guys that, let's be honest, they're all dressed in, traditional mondu, etc., with little headdress, and I feel ridiculous, but I'm knee deep in mud pushing this, huge, boat, snake boat up the mud. And I don't know, I just felt like I was part of their crew and they were so warm and so welcoming and so excited to share it with me that I couldn't think of at that moment any better experience. And it's the same when I was, having fun with the tiger dancers, the Pulakali, is that, these men are from all walks of life. This festival is so important in their year, the celebration, of, their divas, of Mahabali, of the harvest, of family, of food. To be welcomed into that, as I have done, it's kind of addictive. So when you say what's left, I think it's a big country. There's a lot left.
Yeah. I always wanted to ask this to someone who understands the business and who's passionate about cooking. Why is the culinary industry so male dominated? I mean, back in India, in the houses, it's the female or mothers or the daughters or the sisters who traditionally cook food for the family. But when it comes to going out in a restaurant or probably I mean I can say this for the entire world. I just want to know why is it so male dominated?
Yeah, I think it's it's changed completely. I mean, in England, where I trained, in Australia now, where I've lived and worked for so long, even in my own teams over the years, at one point I had 2 restaurants, a catering company, and all of the top positions in the company were all women. Executive chefs, head chef, sales, restaurant managers, and not deliberate, not in terms of, I need quotas and I need a good mix of, men and women, but just naturally many more women in the business and many more women pursuing, careers and climbing the ladder, and no glass ceiling in my businesses. And, I often used to see, young, men come in and go, is that the executive chef? I go, yeah, that's Tracy. And she's like 5'2". I said, but be careful, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because she's a tough cookie. But it is a hard business, and it's I think it's what's difficult for a lot of women is that they, have felt in the past that they have to make a choice between career and family. Whereas now the workplace is such, certainly here in Australia, that the workplace is so flexible. Like, for example, when one of my chefs, had her baby and she said, when can I come back? I said, well, that's your choice. And you can come back 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, whatever you want. I'll take you in whatever capacity you're prepared to do. If you want to come in and just do Saturday night service, oh, beautiful. It takes the pressure off me, and I've got whereas that didn't exist in the past. And I can see it happening in India now, like certainly in the big cities. And obviously pace of change can be slower outside of that. It's a big country, but some of the young women and certainly young apprentices are working really hard, harder than the boys, to prove that they can do it as well. And you can see that all the people above them are yielding to the inevitable, and that's what's going to happen. It's like, boys, if you don't change your attitudes, you're going to be out of a job.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really answer the question, I suppose, but the pace of change is fast. Economics plays a part in that. Freedom plays a part in that, and opportunity. Like my daughter's 22, and going through school, we teach our children, men, boys and girls, that they can achieve anything and do anything they put their mind to. And I think it'll take a little bit of time to, in India to pull through into some of the, positions. Look at MasterChef, for example. Pooja Dinga has just been, nominated, put up as one of the new judge, replacing Goma, and it's in everybody's faces. Young women are inspired by, all sorts of things, STEM research to baking and
everything,
cooking, everything, which is wonderful.
I read somewhere, you discouraged your daughter from even considering a chef's life.
It would have been the same if it was my son. I don't have a son, but it was like, you sure? Are you sure you want to be? I said, every young person that says to me, any advice about being a chef or going into hospitality, and I've heard, because she actually said, I always say to them, consider it carefully, do a little bit of a bit of work in the industry before you make a decision. Like at school, you get a part-time job and see whether you're addicted to it. If you're addicted to it and you love the pace and you love the excitement and you love creating things, then do it. If you find it stressful and overwhelming, then don't do it. It's a tough business. But then I remember my daughter also saying, she said, in amongst her friendship group of maybe 5 or 6 girls, that, one father was an accountant, one father was a lawyer, one father was a restaurateur like me, another father was a builder. And she said, every dad says the same thing as you. Don't be a lawyer, don't be an accountant, she said, what are we supposed to do?
Yeah.
And I think it's probably it was just me, like my grandfather did to me. When I wanted to be a chef, he was a chef, and he just laid it in front of me, bare bones. This is what it is.
Yeah.
You sure you want to do it? And, like I said, to young aspiring chefs, you sure you want to do it? And if you do, if you love it, then if you're doing what you love, then it's hard to beat.
Yeah. Lastly, Gary, I just like to ask, have you seen any films or, from India? I mean, do you watch movies? Or
as in Bollywood? Am I a Bollywood fan?
Yeah.
I am terrible with Bollywood names. Like I go, I pass the poster and you'll laugh at me, but I pass the poster and I go, what's that guy's name again? And you'll have to tell me that, he's an older man, big glasses. He's an absolute superstar. Do you know who he is? I'm trying to describe him. Yes. Amitabh Bachchan, is that right?
Amitabh Bachchan.
Amitabh. And so I must have asked that question 20 times, and I've seen odd things that he's been in, but I'm just awful at, even with Western movies, I'm exactly the same. I'm terrible with celebrity. I met Uma Qureshi recently, who was, in the new film, and is it Dali or Tali? And about the Julia Childs of India. And of course, I was aware of her. And then I met Uma, and they said, "Do you realize how famous she is?" I'm like, no. 7 million followers.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I got. I was very politely, what's the word? I was trending because I asked her if I could kiss her when we met, for permission, which apparently is the right thing to do. But I've always done that. My mother taught me well.
Great.
So yeah, So yeah, that's it. I mean, I just wanted to make sure that you are tuning in to watch mega festivals. National Geographic is going to be spectacular.
Yeah,
and 6 episodes. I hope people get hooked, and I hope too that that I've done a good job in terms of translating Onam, for example, in your mind to the big screen.
Will do. Great. Thank you so much, Gary, for taking your time, and it was a pleasure. To speak to you. Pleasure.
Thank you so much.